slips later, but if you want to bring them forward, you can.
Gathering hymn today is Spirit of Life. Good morning. It's so good to see you, whether it's the first time you've ever been here or if you've been coming here hundreds and hundreds of times, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, whoever you are, we're glad you're here and that you've made your way into this place. It's a wonderful day. It's good to be with all of you. It was many, many years ago when I was first entering the ministry, and some of the older ministers were telling me about a tradition they had. They said, you know, one Sunday out of the year, usually the last Sunday, we don't do a sermon. We just take questions and answer them from the pulpit. And I said, you can get away with that? And they said, yeah, you can get away with that. And I tried it, and I tried it every year of my ministry, and I'm still trying it, and we're going to see if it works. This will be my 38th attempt, I think it is, or something like that. But if you did get a little piece of paper when you walked in today to scribble down a question for me to answer, and we're going to answer it in a way that I hope is sort of like little homilies, but we'll see how that works out. But if you didn't get a chance to scribble down a question, you have a chance to, and we'll be receiving those a little bit further on in the service. So if you haven't written it down, just think about a question you might like to ask a Unitarian Universalist minister about religion, ministry, this congregation, society, politics, anything. I know everything, so don't be afraid to. I know virtually nothing, but I'll do my best to answer your questions, so thanks. I wanted to say welcome to all the dads today. We're having dads and donuts, but this is Father's Day. I'm a dad, and we got some others here too, so we really appreciate the hard work that you do, so we're really, really glad that you're here. And since this is actually the last Sunday that I'll be in the pulpit, I wanted to leave you with this question because I think it's such a great question for opening so many doors when you meet other people. And you simply say, tell me something about yourself. That's a great key to open so many doors. So why don't we greet one another? You don't have time to answer that question maybe, but you can get started. I'll ring the bell when we're finished and we can reconvene. But do take a moment to greet one another so that everybody here feels like they belong. And you can continue those conversations during our fellowship hour after the service today, so please do.
Each week, we remind ourselves of our commitment to this community by joining together to say our affirmation aloud. So please join me. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world.
Songs of loudest praise.
It's our tradition here at UUCS to light 3 chalices as we begin each Sunday service. We light the first chalice for our members, friends, guests, all of you here, and all who are joining us online. The next is for our partner church, which is in Šimanfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And we light our lantern for our children and youth in RE and for children everywhere. If you don't understand, ask questions. If you're uncomfortable about asking questions, say you are uncomfortable about asking questions and then ask anyway. It's easy to tell when a question is coming from a good place. Then, listen some more. Sometimes people just want to feel heard. Here's to the possibilities of friendship and connection and understanding. Simamanda Ngozi Adichie.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for coming today. Can everybody young or young at heart please join us up front? We have a special time for all ages today. You can, go ahead. Welcome. Hi guys, yeah, right there's fine. So today, hi. With the spirit of asking questions, we are going to open up the mic to the kids from the LRE program to see if any of you have a question for Reverend Rick. Something you've always wanted to know, anything you want to know. He's an open book, okay?
And I have to be able to hear the questions.
That's
so it
right.
might need to be repeated.
Okay,
So.
Are we ready?
What's your favorite food and why?
What's your favorite food and why?
And wine?
And why?
And why? Oh, yeah, right. Food and wine, yeah, right. I don't drink that much wine. You know, my favorite food is probably in the pasta realm, some kind of pasta, spaghetti, you know, tomato sauce, cheese. I'm always happy with. And in fact, somebody once said, no man is unhappy when he is eating spaghetti. I think they meant all people are not happy. Yes, next question.
Okay, are you ready?
What Do you like lemons?
Do you like lemons?
Do I like lemons? You know, like many things, it's all in the context. I don't like to just cut a lemon and eat it. Yeah, it's too sour. But I like to squeeze lemon, like lemon juice. And so lemon water. So if life gives you a lemon, make lemonade. That's what they say. I like lemons, yeah. But you have to know what to do with them.
So sour, yes. Okay, ready?
That's why you put sugar in it. Sweet.
How old are you?
How old are you?
How old am I? I've got my real ID in here. I want to check and make sure I don't misinform you. It says I was born on June the 13th, 1950. Yeah, that's right.
Ooh, happy birthday, Reverend Rick.
Yeah. Right. So I can't do the math. So maybe somebody can figure it out for me. Good. All right, 74. Can you believe it? Yeah. I never thought I would still be. Yeah. All right.
Yep,
She's got Alice has got a question.
Okay.
In an algebraic expression, 7x plus 2 equals 25. How much does x?
Math.
I think she stumped all of us with that one.
You'll notice on the form it says ask me questions about all these different things, but it never says math. It doesn't. Alice, I struggled with math in school, but I finally got through it. But maybe you can help me if I ever have struggled with math. Sounds like you're good at it. I'll bet you're good at algebra. That's good. Don't be afraid of math like I was. So.
Anybody else have a question?
Where is the first place you want to travel when you retire?
Where is the first place you want to travel to when you retire?
We want to go to Macedonia. That's where my wife is born and grew up there. It's a country on the other side of the world. It's a little bit north of Greece, next to Albania, south of Serbia, and next to Bulgaria. So now you can find it if you want to join us there. So
that's right.
That's a special trip we hope to be able to make with everybody, the family, my son, and so find Macedonia on a map later on. It's a cool little country.
Would you guys like to learn how to say hello in Macedonian? Can you say tu dravo? Is that right? Tu dravo? Oh, dravo. Dravo. And goodbye is dobarden. Is that right? Farewell? Spoken? Dobarden is what I have here. I guess I'm wrong. Awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question? Okay.
What about it's Father's Day, like, 'cause we write a question for our moms. We love her.
Happy Father's Day. Yes.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day to all.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Oh, one more.
What have you been good at since you were a kid?
What have you been good at since you were a kid?
Hula hooping. I discovered when I was 8 years, I can still hula hoop, and maybe I'll do it for you in the fellowship hall after the service, because and I can hoop in both directions.
Ooh, awesome.
So that's something I'm good at. In fact, that's the only thing I'm good at.
Anybody else have a question? Oh, okay. Yeah, I brought a bunch of questions.
Have you ever lived out of the country?
Yes,
Have you ever lived out of the country?
Yes, I have. I lived in Germany for 2 years when I was a kid. My dad worked for the Red Cross, and so we lived on an army base. Fascinating experience. And I lived in Canada because I went up there to pick fruit. And I never got the official permission, so I was an illegal alien from south of the border picking fruit in Canada for a while until I got out of there. So those are the two places.
Awesome. Okay, one more question.
I love watermelon strawberries with chocolate.
She loves watermelon and strawberries with chocolate.
You've got good taste. You're on a good path. Keep it up. I like
Okay.
watermelon too.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Today, one second. Today, we are having donuts with dear ones after the service today. We have tons of donuts and goodies and coffee and iced coffee and activities on the table and a photo booth for you all to take pictures with your family and friends today to take home. So we hope you can all join us for that. And if you can, okay, if you can stand up in the middle to create the love arch, we will be on our way. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and pick up those question slips from you now. So if you could pass them to the middle, Barbara and I will get those from you.
And while you're passing the questions forward, I would just invite you to take a breath and just be in the present moment. It's such a great discovery to know that you can be with the breath and return to the center of your being. The candlelight of compassion. The candlelight of compassion can easily be snuffed out by the winds of anger and frustration. The candle of compassion can easily be snuffed out. And without that light, you will go astray. And so, when the candle of compassion is blown out, you go into the quiet places, solitude, prayer, meditation, reflection. And in these sacred spaces, you regather yourself. You regather yourself. You center yourself. The air is still, and the candle reignites. If you go there, if you allow it. So often in our world these days, the winds are blowing strong. The winds are blowing so strong that many candles are blowing out. But here, we remember to retreat inwardly, to find our best selves, our best compassionate selves, that we might bring this forth into the world. For compassion is our way. In the way of gratitude, recognizing how everything that comes to us from beyond. By virtue of the efforts of other people, by virtue of the spirit of life, of love. It's all a gift. And on this day, we are grateful to the fathers. We're grateful to the fathers who work, who serve, who love, who nurture, who are strong and steady. We give thanks to all who care for others. Thanks to all who put the well-being of others above their own, that we all may thrive. And for this, we are grateful. We are grateful. Amen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joan Stembridge, and I'm your Lifelines person representing today. We have 3 written messages. I'll do the concerns first. From Margaret Gregg. Please send healing thoughts to Teresa Farnham, who is home now from the hospital and gathering strength to return to UU on Sunday. Teresa, you are missed. And the second concern is from Marcia Christensen. Please send your prayers for safety to firefighters. My 2 grandsons are doing wildland firefighting, currently one at Lake Chelan. Big fire, scary. And the last written one is a joy, written by Joan Stembridge. Thank you, Rick, for everything you've given me. And one final candle for all the joys and concerns that have not been written and shared, but are in our hearts. Lifeline's lay ministers are fellow members of this church who are your neighbors and friends who are here for you. And we just listen and offer support and encouragement for any type of personal or family crisis. And we have a table in the Hanneman Hall where you can come visit, or you can find us online by leaving us a message or by calling the church. And I think that's it. Thank you.
One of the things I appreciate about Unitarian Universalism is that you all realize that I am the person with the answers, and so, no, that's not true at all. In fact, you are the person with the answers. We're all the people with the answers, and that's the whole point of this exercise, is to not give you definitive answers to questions, but to stir us up, to have us thinking on deep matters. So, here's one. How do you answer, do you believe in God? And Hold on, that's two questions. All right, do you believe in God? I always like to say, let's talk about what your image of God is, first of all. I think a lot of times people's image of God is something that's rather limited and constrained and remote. I often say, I don't like to use the word God too much because you project a lot onto that, and that's dangerous. I like to use the term sacred mystery, because there is so much that I do not understand, but it implies that I have reverence for it and trust in it, but that I don't presume to understand it too much. But if you had to locate me on the theist-atheist spectrum, I would be on the pan-entheist. And that's an interesting term that comes from process theology that says that the sacred is within everything and yet it transcends everything. I think that's pretty good. What will you miss and what will you not miss? This is about ministry. What will I miss? You know, I really love most parts of the job. I think that ministry really, as I've thought about it, it simply gives you permission to be the loving self you really wanted to be. That's how I feel about it. It's sort of like you get a little more extra permission to be loving as a minister. I especially love the pastoral calling and being with people. I just had a very, very challenging conversation, but very meaningful conversation yesterday morning with somebody who just got news that they're going to be dying and they're palliative care. But to be there and to be present and to shed tears with them. It was very deep and very meaningful. What will you not miss? Deadlines. Here's another deadline. You got that? Oh, here's another one. It's a newsletter deadline. It's a sermon deadline. It's all sorts of deadlines coming at you. And it's like a little bit like a pressure cooker. And it's nice to have the pressure come off. Or it will be pretty soon. Anyway. What can we do to be more welcoming? That's a wonderful question. I think that I wrote an article in my newsletter column a couple of weeks ago, and I said that you should love the stranger, love the person who comes in. And of course, that word love is a really big word, means a lot of different things, but I'm talking of the larger sense of love and agape love. But having a sense, I think to begin with, to be more welcoming to people. And actually, I think this congregation is very welcoming. And so it's not like you need to improve a lot here, but I think that the best way to be welcoming is to imagine what it is that people who are coming in here for the first time might really need. Sometimes they're introverts and they don't want to be swarmed. Sometimes they do want to connect with people. Sometimes there's a racial or cultural ethnic difference, and you have to have sensitivities around that. I think that the ongoing work of figuring out what it means to be a really welcoming community is something that you want to always be wrapping your mind around so that anybody who comes through the doors, especially on Sunday mornings, feels like that they found a place where they felt reconnected in one way or another. So it's really important to do that. Pets. I thought it says, does pot go to heaven? It says, we don't need pot in heaven, but do pets go to heaven? Well, you know, I love animals. One of the things I like about the Eastern religious traditions as opposed to the Western is that they recognize the sacred in all beings. And I really love animals, and I have a hard time. I eat fish. I do. I'm a pescatarian, but I really sense that there's so much more intelligence and awareness in the animal realm than we're currently aware. And so I don't really make a harsh distinction between humans and non-humans. I think there's a lot of, and Roger Fouts could tell you a lot more about that because Roger worked with chimps and everything, and he has a wonderful perspective on that. So I'll let him answer that question in greater depth. This one is another one. What are your thoughts about God? And I really think a lot about that. And It's very confusing. It's very open-ended. You never know. There was a religious writer who spoke of the mysterium tremendum, that the sacred God is not your uncle. It's something more frightening than that. And I reflect on that. How did this universe come to be, and how are we here and as individual beings, and how are we connected, and how did this all happen? And I'm constantly thinking about this, and it draws me ever deeper into a mystery. But I do have a sense of trust, a sense of trust about this, as opposed to mistrust. And I think that's a transformation I talked about in a sermon a few weeks ago, where I moved from having a sense of mistrust to a sense of trust in life. Let's see. Here's one. How do you maintain your integrity in a changing world and still remain positive in relationships? That's a question I think that, there was in the 18th century, the Quakers used to write about clergy, and they called them, they called them hireling clergy, meaning they weren't really authentic, they didn't have their integrity, they were paid, whoever paid the pipers, that's what they would preach. That was the idea behind that. And so the idea of keeping your integrity in a changing world and still remain positive in your relationships, but still have your authenticity and not let things go by that don't work for you. You have to really work at that. It's not something that comes easily. It's easy to be nice all the time, but maybe that's not what's called for sometimes. Sometimes you can't just be nice. But you always do want to strive to recognize the humanity of another person. And when you fail to do that, then everything will fall apart. But if you do remember to do that, it'll keep together. What part of your secret life would you like to reveal now? I'm going to put this one up here. We'll get back to it and see. I'm an open book. I have no secrets. I'm just such a... Yeah, that's an interesting question. Let me get back to that one. I'll percolate that one down and see if something emerges. So that one's got a special. I haven't turned the question over, but I'll get back to it. How do you respond to the principle of inherent worth and dignity when considering the likes of Donald Trump or other unsavory characters or people that you don't like? I think that it's so important to look at context. I've been to death row, and I've talked to people who are not politicians you don't like. They murdered other people. They took people's lives. And so when you have a conversation with somebody like that, you start to think, where is their inherent worth and dignity? Is it there? And when you have a conversation with a person like that, you begin to realize the context in which this thing occurred and how it's so hard to say this one person did this bad thing. It's always a constellation of things that come together, and so to hate that person somehow seemed misguided, even though I remember talking to the guy, he murdered a young girl. And yet he couldn't even recognize the evil that he had done. Even he couldn't recognize it. And so I think when we're talking about people, the Buddhist sage Shantideva said, getting mad at people is like getting mad at a cold when you get a cold. It just happens. And what led a person to be who they are and how they act, if you really get hot and bothered and you hate them, I think you're not understanding the deeper way that the world works. And so to isolate people and say, I don't like you, I think is a dangerous business, And in fact, we're very good at it right now, a very polarized nation. We hate the other side, and we point the fingers, and we hate, back and forth. And of course, that's just going to bring more darkness into the world. What, in your opinion, is the most important aha moment of your ministry at UUCS? My most important aha, I'm still waiting to have it. No. I think my most important aha moment was when I realized that I should work on what I perceive to be my strengths and not spend a lot of time and energy doing things that I'm not good at, that other people can do, and that it's a partnership here, and that I don't have to overfunction and do absolutely everything in the congregation. So it's sort of like a liberating insight. I don't have to do it all. This is the part that I do. Do it well, but don't think that you have to do everything. That's a recipe for burnout. Right, yeah. What is your favorite nugget for living a good life? This one for me is easy. As you know, I have a bumper sticker. It simply says, "Your friend." And I really mean that. I really think of other people. When I encounter other people, I try to think, how can I benefit them? How can I help this person? How can I be this person's friend? Because they're just like me. They need all the friends they can get. If you encounter people in the world, wherever, whoever, with the attitude of, I am friendly, I want to be your friend because I care about you. I want your well-being is important to me. I'm not out here to take advantage of you or something like that. Just sending that energy that, hey, I'm here for you. I am your friend. Whoever it is, I think that's a really good way to go. I like it. It's fun. Any walking pilgrimages that you would recommend? You know, many years ago, my car was stolen, and I was having to walk places. I was just getting ready. I hadn't even entered theology school yet. And I just had an old Volkswagen, 66 Volkswagen Bug, and they took it and they stole that. And I had to start walking around. Not such a bad deal after a while, though. And when you walk, you think. And that's something that allows you to maybe go deeper. And I remember after my car was stolen and I was walking along thinking about my life and everything, it occurred to me that maybe I wanted to be a minister. And having that opportunity on a slow walk. I love to hike. I love to walk in the woods. The forest bath, the Japanese talk about the forest bath, where you walk a little more slowly and absorb what's around you. I love the idea of pilgrimages. I know that we have people in the congregation who've flown over to the famous pilgrimage in Spain. I can't think of it right now. There's a trail that yeah, El Camino. Right. We've had a number of people who go over there. And I love the idea of being on a pilgrimage. I've often thought we ought to have pilgrimage trails in North America so I don't have to get on a plane. So I think that getting out and walking around and just enjoying the beauty of this world is its own pilgrimage every day. If you had a time machine and could go back to when you first became the minister here, what advice would you give your younger self? And what, if anything, would you change about your precious time here? From Mandy. Wow, let's see. I would probably tell myself, don't be so stressed. It's it's not going to help. You don't have to do everything. That was a later recognition. Don't worry so much about this, and recognize that you can't do it all. And don't try to go to every single meeting. Go to the ones where your input is important. And remember to keep your spiritual life up. I did, but I meditate every day. I think I would just say what I just said, that's all. Sin. All my life until I came to Salem a year ago, I attended churches of American Christian denominations. Almost all of the sermons talked about sin. In the year I have been attending UUCS, I do not recall hearing it mentioned once. Some relief. I would like to hear your views on this subject. I think that we live in a culture that was disastrously misformed by some theology. I like Augustine, by the way. I think Augustine's a very great person and a great thinker. But somehow this idea of that we are born in sin took root in Western society. And so it is the default attitude of our culture oftentimes is that we're bad, but maybe if we try hard, we can become a little bit better. But I think that the word sin has often been used in a way that induces shame and guilt and not awareness. I think that we are quite capable of saying and doing things that are harmful and that you could call that a sin. But I think that putting a label on a word, putting a label on something often will cause you to not look at it in the way that it should be looked at. And so I think that I'm more inclined to talk about awareness. In that way, if you are having a negative impact upon yourself or upon other people, that's something to pay attention to. The word sin etymologically derives from the ancient concept of missing the mark. And I like that too. I think that sin is not something, you're a terrible person. It's, no, you missed the mark that time because you didn't have your aim right. You weren't centered. But I don't mention sin here very much for the very reason that you mentioned in your question. I think people have been overburdened with it. I think, in fact, that in our culture, people are more likely inclined towards self-loathing. The Dalai Lama noticed this once when he was having a conversation with some Westerners. Hudson Schweikert reminded me of this conversation a few years ago. And the Dalai Lama was really amazed to discover that all of the Westerners in the room understood what self-loathing was and felt free to practice it. It's just something that we do in our culture. And he was shocked to realize this. And so I think that in this congregation, as you know, I'm very much attuned to Buddhist traditions. I think that they might move us in a little bit better of a direction than the traditional, you're a bad dog, you're sinners, and you need to do better, and you need to feel bad about yourself. And if you feel perpetually bad about yourself, then that's good. I don't think so. What are some tips for staying centered when listening to opposing sides of a question? That's a good one. I think that if you're having a difficult conversation with somebody, I think, first of all, there needs to be a sense of trust that you are going to have the opportunity to respond in one way or another. And if there's not, if you think you're going to have to shout over the other person, it just gets totally out of hand. And so if you can stay centered, the way to stay centered is to practice staying centered. If you decide that you're not ever centered, but one day I need to be centered right now, I'm going to get centered. it's probably not going to work as well as if you have a practice of, hey, I'm trying to find my best place here. There's a certain spaciousness that you get when you can center yourself so that you're less reactive and you're able to listen. And when you can listen non-reactively, you probably will hear some things that you want to hear. And I think it's good to maybe ask questions of the person who holds views opposite you to make sure that you mine everything you can get from them so that you can use that against them. No, so that you can, no. So that you can best, perhaps understand not only their perspective, but have some new insight yourself. It's possible that you might learn something new in an interaction. Even if your opponent seems to be totally wrong on an issue, it's always possible to learn something new. But I don't think staying centered in listening to opposing sides of a question means getting steamrollered. I think you need to be able to assert and affirm your own views in this life. What do you recommend if things go badly in November? Well, I would say come here. Come here and just remember your best self and take it a day at a time and just see how life unfolds. A lot of times, most of the time, our imagined fears are greater than the actual reality of what we face. And I walk through the neighborhood and I see the lawn signs of people on both sides of the campaigns coming up. And the people who have signs that oppose me, they still appear to be human beings. They really do. Who have normal likes and desires just like me. And I think we need to have more face-to-face contact with each other and really, really resolve between now and November to recognize the humanity of everyone, including the people who are really pissing you off. It's hard. But if you don't do it, how do you find renewal in your spiritual life daily? You know, this can be a tricky thing to think about, because if you think you know what you need to do to grow, that might not be what you really do need to do. There may be some things that you have blind spots about. I say this because in my spiritual life, I have always, ever since I entered the ministry, done daily meditation, and that's been helpful to me. But I've often found that my concept of what spiritual life and spiritual growth entails it needs to be broadened. Sometimes I'll come to a meeting and I'll just be with other people and I'll realize I needed that. And that's a spiritual practice. Community is a spiritual practice too. Being with other people, feeling the presence of other people. So I think that I think it's important to center myself every day. I think it's important to hear some beautiful music every day. I think it's important to take a walk every day. This is such a beautiful part of the world, you know. In my neighborhood, I can walk and I can look off, I can see Mount Jefferson, I can see the coastal range. It's just so beautiful there. And just opening your heart to the beauty around you. And if you have something that you read and reflect upon that can ground you, that can be helpful too. Something to reflect on. A good book by a wise person that you can read a little at a time, or some ancient text, sacred text. I always used to, I haven't done that for a while, but for many years I would read a little sacred text every day. Differences of opinion are inevitable when a group of people are working toward a goal. Which is more important, the goal or reaching a better understanding of the people you're collaborating with? I would say, I'm inclined to say the latter, to maintain relationships. I often notice that my primary concern in meetings is not that we get the business done, but that we get the business done in a way that feels that we're spiritually connected and that we're not saying and doing things that are demeaning to other people, and that we do the business. If it's so important to get the business done that you forget the people around you and you focus too much on the goal, then you're going to steamroller people. And in the final analysis, this is not a business. This is not a business here. And so I think that it's good to remember we don't need to use the principles of business, the business world, all the time in our congregational life. I think we need to have a different mindset for that, especially in our meetings. Meetings should be not spiritual dead zones. Meetings should have some life in them and give you a chance to reflect on why you're here and what you're doing. If you lose sight of that, it just becomes a business. Are people ready for the changes coming at us? Robots. I just ate in a restaurant the other day, and a robot waited on me. No kidding. Are we ready for the changes coming at us? Robots, artificial intelligence, climate change. Yeah, I'm ready. Not. Here's my concern. Well, first of all, you have to do everything you can to help ameliorate problems that we see arising. But I do worry about of us unwittingly creating a great dystopian cloud about, oh, this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad. Isn't it awful? Isn't our life awful? And let's tell this story to our children, too, so they can feel bad about life in the future, too. I think that we have to be careful about our thinking about the larger world. I remember having a talk with Carlisle Roberts, who was a member here many years ago. He grew up in Hood River, and he said, only thing we knew about was what was going on in Hood River, and that was pretty good. Life was good. I'm not talking about ignorance, but I think that having to know all the stresses in all the world all the time is not helpful. And let's see. Some questions are repetitive. Not you just, I've already answered them. Why are we here on this earth? Well, I think we're here to pay attention, to enjoy, to cherish, to find opportunities to love, to find opportunities to be a friend to people, to enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. We were put here to enjoy our lives and to love one another. That's what I think, anyway. That's why I like to have fun. What do you eat for breakfast? I don't have the greatest diet. No, I usually just have some coffee and a fig bar or something. I'm not a big breakfast person. I grew up like a latchkey kid. I wasn't even used to eating breakfast for most of my life, so it's not a time when my appetite is very, very much. What parks or places of natural wonder do you plan to visit? Oh, gosh. The Olympic Peninsula, maybe up into British Columbia some more. I really love to get up to there. We want to get out to the Wallowas. I've never been to the Wallowas. Can you believe it? That's terrible. There's so many wonderful places around here that I do want to get to, and I will. We will. What's that? St. Simon's Island, Georgia. Yeah, we've got Mary Bray here in St. Simon's, Georgia. She's watching us on the phone right now. So.
And my brother Bert lives 2 miles from her.
Right.
And he has a 6-bedroom house, so he's glad to have anyone that wants to go visit.
All right, go visit her. Of the 3 books in the Divine Comedy, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, which is your favorite? Well, my favorite place to be is the Paradiso, and my favorite place to read about is the Inferno. I was an English major, so we read this. I never made it through into the Purgatory and the Paradiso, but the Inferno, fascinating book to read. A lot of psychological insight embedded in there. And so I guess that the reason that this is the most read part of the trilogy is hell is a lot more interesting than heaven, at least as Dante wrote it out. So that's, I think you can gain the most insight and wisdom from reading that one, perhaps. Let's see. How is our national Unitarian leadership thriving our current political situation? You know, I don't think I can answer that question because I don't really stay in touch with the UUA that much in the headquarters. I know that they have made some statements on various things that have happened lately. They do make public statements on various issues that they feel like they need to weigh in on. I don't always agree with them. I would mention their recent statement on the Palestinian issue. Very, very controversial, very, very difficult. But I think it lacked nuance. And so I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that, what the UUA is doing, the national leadership, because I have my own thoughts and ideas. What is the meaning of life? Has my view changed? Since I got here, since I became a minister, I think that you don't really change the basic perspective. At least I haven't. I feel like it's deepened, it's been enriched. But my view of the meaning of life is it's a path of indefinite growth. My attitude towards life admits there's no end to growth. There's no end to exploration. And so that's always been the case ever since I've been a minister. So maybe I've grown older for sure. Wiser, maybe, I don't know. Sometimes I think so. Sometimes I wonder. Can you please explain the meaning of what is the sound of one hand clapping? And what is its significance? That is, from the Zen Buddhist tradition, it's called a koan, K-O-A-N, a koan. It's something that it doesn't make any sense at all, and you're supposed to reflect upon it to such an extent that your conceptual mind breaks down and you have an awareness that concepts are something limiting. And so the sound of one hand clapping, is a koan, and you go in front of the master and they ask you, what is the sound of one hand clapping? And if your response to this is just completely spontaneous or something, and you say something, then you've passed the koan. And if you're still scratching your head, you haven't passed. And I'm still scratching my head. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Interesting question. Let's see. How might you minister UU values to others in retirement? I really like being a minister. I've really enjoyed being a minister. I feel like I found my calling. And I don't think that when I became a minister, I changed. I think that I just was the same person, and then I became the minister. And then when I finished being a minister, I'm not going to cease being a minister. My son thinks I should be an airport chaplain because I like to go up and talk to people all the time and just be friendly with them. And I don't know that I'm going to follow through on that. But I like the energy of interacting with people. I have some thoughts on some things I might like to share with the general public when I retire, but they're not exactly ministerial. But I will always carry that energy of caring for people and loving people and wanting them to thrive and do well into my retirement. I'm retiring from this position, but I'm not retiring from being who I am. So, how is cultivating friendship important for spiritual growth? Examples. There is a famous, well-known Jewish writer, Martin Buber. And Martin Buber is famous for his book, I and Thou, I and Thou. And the idea behind I and Thou is when you have a relationship, you are in dialogue and there's an opportunity for growth that you would not have alone. And he contrasts the I-thou relationship with an I-it relationship. When you regard another person as an it, then and you're not recognizing their humanity, then you're not going to be treating them in a way that honors their humanity. But if you can enter into relationships with people that you see as your spiritual equal, you have an opportunity to form a deep friendship, but also enter a path of exploration, because we often cannot see ourselves. We need mirrors, the other people, to kind of put it up and help us recognize ourselves. It's absolutely essential to have friendships in our life. If you don't, and you're totally alone, it's, I think, very unlikely that you're some sort of a great saint or a solitude and a hermit can find God on your own. We really need people. We need other people. I don't know if I can conjure up great examples of friendships, except I was just talking to my friend Pete, emailing him the other day. He and I have been friends for over half a century. And just when I think about how I am able to be with that friendship and what it gives me and what it offers me, it makes me realize that this is something it's a rare gift. And to have a spouse, too, that's my best friend, so that's a beautiful thing. Let's see, we're running kind of late here. Let's see how many, I've gotten to most of the questions. Let me just see what else. I was supposed to tell you the secret that I would like to reveal now. You know, I've just got such a clean life. I just don't have any, I don't know what I would say. So maybe I'll tell you that next week, huh? During the why does UU reject the Trinity? We don't, that's a good question. Somebody says, we're Unitarians, therefore we must reject the Trinity. But in truth, as Unitarian Universalists, you could be a Trinitarian Unitarian. We don't tell you you can't believe in the Trinity here. I find it a confusing theological notion, but others don't, and I respect them for it. So if you do embrace Trinitarian theology and you wanted to belong to this congregation, that would be just fine with me. You would not necessarily expect the rest of us to embrace the Trinity, but it's okay if you do. What's your favorite movie and why? I don't really know. Let me think. I'll get back to that if I have time. What is it? So I don't see any particular new ones. There are some about wondering what my life is going to look like after I retire from here, and will I still be around? Will you be able to do this? And the Unitarian Universalist Association has a practice that they recommend for all congregations, and I think it makes sense, as hard as it might sound. But when a minister leaves a position in the church, in order for a new ministry to happen, the minister has to be gone for 2 years at least. And so I have an agreement with the board, and we've talked about it, and I'm in agreement that I need to be away from here for a period of time so that the congregation has a chance to discover who you are without me as your minister, and discover who you will be as you welcome your new minister. So I will, it's hard, I know, I'm leaving. And more than likely, we'll be moving more towards, closer to where my son is. We'll be doing a lot of traveling. So I'm saying this because I don't want you to think, oh, we're going to see Rick, because basically, this is the end of a stage of my life, and we're moving on in lots of ways. But not to say that I don't love or care for you, but this is changing. It's changing, and we've been talking about it for about a year. And we're trying to do it as well as we can. Transitions are hard. Transitions are hard in life, especially one like this that's been going on for so long, for over 31 years. But I'm still here. I still love you, but I'm retiring. And this is actually the last time I'll be in the pulpit. So isn't that something? That's all the questions I have for now. I want to just invite you to join me in a meditation, if you would. It's so important, if you can, to just let go of your anger and your anxiety. But it's hard to let go. So change your focus away from those thoughts and focus on your breath. Just enjoy the gift of being. Breathe deeply. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing you need to do right now except just be. In this room where so many words are spoken, so many beautiful sounds are made, so many hopes and joys are expressed, here we find ourselves. Here we have the opportunity to look deeply into the heart of reality, deep into the heart of our lives, that we might remember who we are and why we are here. We are here to enjoy one another. We're here to love. We're here to serve. May it be so. Amen.
Well, your questions have been asked and some answers have been offered. So now it's time for us to ask you, the members and friends of UUCS, to show your support for our community. At UUCS, it is our custom to share our blessings. This month, we are supporting the Nellie Thompson Dorothy Patch Scholarship Fund, which awards scholarships to ethnic minorities students in Salem so they can continue their education after high school. We also support the Marion Polk Food Share through donations which can be placed in our little red wagon that's right here at the front of the sanctuary. Donations can be made during the passing of the baskets. You can use the QR code on the document that you were given at the door, or you can go to our website, uusalem.org. And we do thank you so much for your generosity.
To everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time for harvest, a time to meet and a time to part, a soul sow the seed. Some of it fell upon the path, some fell on shallow, rocky soil, and some among choking thorns. To everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to speak and a time for silence, a time to wound and a time to heal. Nothing can grow in barren soil. Briars and ravens take their toil. Still there is grain 100-fold, a seed that took root and grew. To everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die, a time for joy and a time for grieving, a time to seek and a time to lose. God's word is like the farmer's seed, rooted in joyful, loving hearts, growing like grain in fertile ground, a harvest that overflows. To everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time for harvest, a time to meet and a time to part, a time to meet and a time to part.
Well, I hope you all show up next Sunday. The whole worship team, you get us all. We're going to do a special service. So it's really going to be fun. So please show up. Okay, well, you know, UUs, we're kind of famous for a lot of weird things, and one of them is we like our coffee year-round. And the only way we're going to get coffee is if somebody shows up to make it. I don't mind doing that, but when I'm up here, it's kind of hard to do both. So if you could lend a hand this summer, if you're going to be in town some week and you can just, you know, make coffee, there's always somebody who can show you how. That would be absolutely awesome. So just contact Anna Talley, or actually you could probably talk to anybody that's in the leadership roles, and they can get you some help there. So next Sunday, we're going to have a party, because you know what? That's what we do well. So we hope you all show up, not only to the service, but hang around afterwards. It's a potluck. You can bring whatever you want to share, and we're just going to have fun celebrating all the time we had with Rick and Gordana. So please, please, please show up, bring your friends, bring the whole family. We'll have a great time. So if you haven't been getting the news of the congregation, please go ahead and sign up for the email. You can just call the office up. You can go online. I guess you can sign the visitor book in the foyer, and they will get that information. But anyway, it's all through email. You can get it mailed to you if you want, but generally most people get it through email. It keeps you up on what's going on. And I'm going to make one extra announcement. So as most of you know, I've been collecting things to create a book for Rick and Gordana, and the deadline was back in April, I believe, and the book was full, and I've been telling people, no, they can't. Well, I got tired of telling people no, and so I went out and I got a second book. So if you have something that you want to put in a book, go ahead. It'll have to come to me in printed form and ready to slide in there, but please go ahead and feel free to do that, and we'll make sure everybody's included, okay? I think that's all of my announcements. Sarah, is that right? Am I done? So, one last time, Rick, could you bring forward the social justice lantern? Each week we light this lantern from the flame of our chalice in recognition of the many ways that you, the members and friends of UUCS, share your gifts with the world. As we extinguish our chalices, I want to leave you with the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel. We are closer to God when we are asking questions than when we think we have the answers. Please rise and bow to your spirit. Join hands. Oh, while you're joining hands, I'm going to give you our last Rick quote. And it says, one Sunday remains. This was his last Sunday in the pulpit, but he will be joining us next Sunday for our farewell sermon. So the quote we have for today is, the primary way we grow is by deepening our awareness of our inner connectedness. I'll give you a second. There's a lot of movement going on here. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.